Losing track of your dreams, total slowdown for the soul, potentially even a disaster for the soul. I was reminded yesterday of this happy place, and I love ideas and creative energy. And I would imagine most of us do. I think when we come into this lifetime, it's to embrace creative energy and the flow of our particular purpose or decision to come into this space. And so yesterday I was riffing on all these ideas. And for like a minute, I forgot I was grieving. It was so miraculous. And then I was thinking, Valarie, it's interesting. Since you've been grieving, you have not given yourself permission to release and just live in an idea free flow experience. And so it's a bigger idea in essence, because grief, I'm not suggesting grief is a trap, but boy, it can feel like a trap. And I mean, like, talk about creative energy and grief. You know how many grief books exist? It's people grieving, needing to get their grief out through a creative outlet. And honestly, it felt so exciting yesterday. And it's cool because it kind of, well, it doesn't kind of, it definitely aligns with this worm moon. Today, actually, the full moon is this evening and into tomorrow, and it's about rebirth and change. And so I was very inspired by the idea of like a new beginning, and spring often makes you feel that kind of excitement in essence, because it's like, wow, look at that cool flower, or whoa, that little bird is just like sitting on my windowsill. Where'd you come from, right? So, but going back to traps on planet Earth, we are taught, and this makes me so mad, honestly, it works me up. We are taught that happiness is something that is obtained on the outside of us through materialism. Ultimately, if you don't have this particular formula, you will not be satisfied or happy. So work hard, get a job, work for the man, right? And meanwhile, we get into that trap because it's like, okay, awesome, I got my first job and I'm really going to give it all of my attention, right? Just because I'm rooting for that big house or that thing or that trip or that car. But wait a minute, major trap, because within all of that, we give up a part of our dreams unless you're lucky enough and blessed enough and manifested a walk with your dreams, and also kind of bringing in that support that it takes and requires to sustain as a human. And that's the point. If you're living your dreams, it doesn't matter what your dream is. If you're living it, everything else will fall into place. And I definitely fell into that trap where provide, provide, provide. You need to have a home, provide university, provide a safe car, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, for, for your family. And what I did in the process, and I got this reminder from my son in a birthday card, and I can't recall which birthday it was, but he had gifted me small, already stretched canvas. And in the card, all he said was paint again, paint again. That was it. And I took a really deep breath and I went, oh my God, I am in so fucking deep in my job, in my responsibilities, because with the job came more expenses. Like, okay, better house, more expensive. So, and then better car, more expensive. And it goes on, the beat goes on in that direction. And before you know it, you're in it. And you're like, unraveling that seems impossible when you're kind of caught in that moment, because it's sort of tunnel vision. And like having that tunnel vision, you're not seeing peripheral, or you're not feeding your soul in essence. So to all young humans that stumble upon this little video, live your dreams. Seriously, do not walk, whether you're a skateboarder or an artist or a scientist or a doctor. There are so many beautiful things that are inspiring and creative, not necessarily defined as we know it, because creative equals artist a lot of the times, and it's not true. Everything that you're drawn to and excited about is creative energy. Seriously. And going back to my happy place in ideas, like my creative energy is with a camera. And I love working with people and like having community creations. And so I realized, regardless of my grief, I need to get back to being a creative human. I guess hence these videos for Grief Beats. I'm self-employed and broke as hell, and it is feeling better already, believe it or not. And I'm not suggesting, just quit it all, but, think through if there's a moment where perhaps you let go of a dream for an idea of happiness versus the dream where you were already happy, right? So anyway, full moon energy, dreams, ideas, flow energy, listening to your intuitive, creative self and knowing traps, like recognizing traps. And traps, I guess, to a more positive riff on traps could be challenges. Challenges can create great change if we want to go positive on that. And with that great change, we renew a part of ourselves. But if you find yourself funking out and not thriving in your inner space, realign with a happy place of yours in the sense of what you love to do, like when was the last time, like this is for me, essentially, I'm kind of riffing for myself in a lot of ways with this. For me, I loved drawing and I love disappearing in storylines. In fact, I have this idea. Yesterday, I came up with this cool idea. Well, it didn't actually happen yesterday, but it was a show that was inspired by this older woman in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm sitting at this little bar in this little Italian place, and one stool left, and I kind of grabbed it. And I ended up sitting next to this remarkably interesting human who traveled the world, was an artist, Santa Fe, full of crazy cool people, very creative space. But I had looked over at her, and she had one black pearl earring in and not the other. And I said, "Excuse me, ma'am, I think you lost your other earring." And she looked at me and she said, "No, ma'am, I did not. I actually couldn't find it." And I said, "Fuck it. I wanted to wear it anyway." So she chose to wear this black pearl earring, which led to her story about Bora Bora and life. And so I walked away from meeting this incredible human and feeling so inspired that I wanted to do a show called 80 something. And in that show, I wanted to record stories and capture stories from creative dreamers on planet Earth that have made it to their 80s, and to not lose that wisdom and that inspiring life experience. And so it took a beat, but I ended up filming 3 of them as a test run, and I got 1 done. And then I just fell into that grief fog and never finished them. Like yesterday I was like, what? Why didn't you finish those? So I'm going to cut them over the next couple of months and release the first 3 80-somethings, and they're cool. The first one I did cut, which is actually out, is a friend of mine who was a fashion photographer in the 70s. How cool. oh my God, and around the world, and his struggles growing up as a gay man in the 50s, and all of the anti-gay propaganda and the fear-based propaganda. Oh my God, it's crazy what he went through. And so, and another one, James, a story that's going to be coming out. James, see, look at me getting into ideas and excited. But you know what? I'll save the last two. But James, a photojournalist, 60s, 70s, Mexico City. What? And really knew JFK, et cetera, et cetera. Super interesting story. And then the third one is an opera singer, Kay, who was married to Vernon Duke, who wrote Autumn in New York, Spring in Paris, and remarkable life stories. So get excited. Don't lose track of your dreams, because dreams feed your soul. So feed your soul today. Dream. Check for traps. Listen to red flags that are coming from your interior space. Shift and change with this incredible full moon energy of renewal, rebirth. Yeah.